Hello, welcome back. My name is Jo, and we are here for another episode of Spanish Media Diaries, which is where I talk about all of the things that I have been reading, watching, listening to, etc. in Spanish, that were made in Spanish. So today we are going to catch up on books, and then we have a couple movies as well. So the first book is Las Indignas by Agustina Bazterrica. This is a relatively short literary fiction novel about a woman who is inside of this convent in like a dystopian setting, and so she is kind of pushing back or struggling with the restrictions that she has in this place, but also knowing that like the world outside was significantly more difficult for her prior to getting to the convent. All kinds of things happen. There are some dual timelines and everything. I did really like reading this book. I didn't like super connect with it. Like I really liked it, but a lot of books about like the power dynamics and everything in organized religion or in any kind of like cult type structures, I typically do really emotionally connect with them, and this one I didn't really, but nonetheless it was really beautiful. The writing is a little bit difficult. And the next book I actually read in Catalan, but it is Spanish. It's El Gato numero 13, and this is a children's book that was very, very approachable to read in Catalan. If you are trying to learn Catalan from Spanish, I think that this is a really, really good book to read. So this is a young boy who basically finds out that he potentially has magical powers, and he has like a talking cat companion, and it was an endearing story. It was nothing out of this world, in my opinion, as far as the story goes. But if you are more on the beginner end, I think it's a good one. La Bastarda I read based on the recommendation of a comment, so thank you for that. This is a book written by someone originally from Equatorial Guinea, and I was trying to read something from there. And so you're following a young girl in Equatorial Guinea who is a, quote-unquote illegitimate child, and also she's kind of discovering her own like queer identity without really having the vocabulary or the knowledge of what that even is. And she has, not really a ton of great people around her, but she does end up finding kind of a found family. So I really liked the story of this, and I think that it's a really important story to be told, and I'm glad that I read it. I wasn't obsessed with the writing style or anything like that. I didn't find myself super captured, but it's very short, very worth the read. The next book that I want to talk about, skipping to that I honestly just don't even have anything to say about, is Kramp. This is not the Spanish cover, but this is by Maria, José, Ferrada, and I really, really liked this. So this is set in Chile, and you are following this young girl who is traveling with her father, who is a traveling salesman. At first it's a very like almost whimsical, kind of a little bit absurd, episodic tale of the things that they do along the road, the way that they interact. And then as the story develops, I mean, it's a very short book, but as things kind of unfold, you get more of like the political context and stuff like that. Really, really enjoyed this, so much so that I'm rereading it now. But yeah, I think it's a very, very solid little book. Same with Un viaje a salto, which is set in Uruguay during the military dictatorship, and we are following a mother and child who are on a trip to Salto, trying to see their like husband, father, who is a prisoner of the regime. And so yeah, it's just kind of following that. I really preferred the first half, which was like the narrative part. The second half, I can't honestly remember what it was right now, but I remember being kind of disappointed that it wasn't something different. But nonetheless, I did really like the book. I think it was good to read. Okay, and then back to our heavy hitters. Those were all very short books because I read them in my 7 books in 7 days attempt. Then I have 2 physical reads, and the first one that I finished was Adonde, siempre es de noche by Bernardo Esquinca, and I loved this book. So this is a collection of short stories, basically like weird horror, so like the kind of the new weird genre, but specifically horror. And this author is from Mexico, and these stories for the most part are very rooted in Mexico, and I loved them. I didn't love every story, but most of them I really, really enjoyed, and I definitely want to reread this like quite soon, to be honest. It is, I would say, like medium horror. Like I would not say it's super, super horrifying, but they definitely are quite unsettling, quite creepy, and some of them are violent, but not very gruesome, I wouldn't say, from what I recall. I wish that more people would read it, because I really haven't been able to find anything about it online, like even like author interviews or presentations or anything. So really love this. Definitely want to do more like work with this in the future of reading deeply, that kind of thing. This is a little bit difficult because it is so localized, so much Mexico specific vocabulary, but yeah, really loved this. Then we have the big dog, Nuestra, parte, de noche by Mariana Enriquez. This was supposed to be a book club book. If you are interested in reading along with various things that I'm reading, I have free book clubs that are linked below. So this was supposed to be the book club book for like October or something like that, and I just finished it in January, but it is like 700 pages, and it's a very dense book as well. I mean, obviously I could have read it faster than that. I just kept getting distracted, but I did decide to get this physically after maybe like 10%, and I am so glad that I did, actually, because I think it is something that I might have DNF'd if I hadn't, strangely. I loved this. Like, this is an incredible book. While I was reading it, I kept thinking about It by Stephen King, and then I was watching author interviews, and she does actually mention Stephen King specifically as an inspiration, so I felt very validated. But this is better than Stephen King. Like, it has a lot more depth to it. I mean, I don't dislike Stephen King, but she has like a political and emotional, I think, depth that his works often are kind of missing. So anyway, this is set in Argentina during / kind of towards the end of the dictatorship in Argentina, and we're following primarily a father and son. We do have changing perspectives. There are various different like books or like modules within this book that each have a different perspective, but the main characters are a father and son. The father is one of like my most, you do understand him in a lot of ways, but one of my most hated characters during various portions of this ever. But the mother has died under potentially questionable circumstances. When the book starts, they are traveling to the mother's family in a different part of Argentina, and then all kinds of things unfold. This is, again, so reminiscent of Stephen King's longer works in the sheer scope of the amount of time, the amount of people involved, where it's just this immense world that you're like, I can barely keep track of this reading it. I cannot imagine trying to write it and keep all of that like consistent. An incredibly dark book. Like, if the other one was like medium horror, this is like horror. I mean, you can go like 200 pages without anything like specifically super horrific happening, but then there will be scenes that are just so viscerally horrific that, yeah, definitely not for the horror faint of heart. But loved this. This is another one that I will definitely be rereading at some point, and hopefully doing a lot of research. Thankfully, this one does have a lot of conversation about it, so hopefully I will be able to find a lot of material to kind of learn more about the layers that are in this that I'm sure that I am completely missing as someone who has only the most rudimentary understanding of the dictatorship in Argentina, the mythology, the traditions of the Guarani people that she's talking about in various points. All of that goodness. I definitely, I wouldn't recommend this to everybody, but if it is a book that you've been interested in, for sure. And it's not super difficult language-wise. It is, obviously, again, it's a literary fiction aimed at adults, so it is quite a high level, but within that sphere, it's not written super, other than some Argentinian specific vocabulary, I wouldn't say this is wildly difficult as far as literary fiction goes. Then my movies. 2 good movies as well, actually. So the first one that I watched was Yo la peor de todas, which is a movie from Spain from 1990. And this is following the character of Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, I think. A real nun who was very, very famous, still is very famous, in Nueva España, or Mexico, for her writing primarily. She wrote poetry, she wrote plays. There is a seemingly very strong possibility that she had kind of a romantic connection to the vicereina who was present in Mexico at that time, or for some amount of time. So that's what the movie is about, and then her eventual demise. But loved this movie. It is kind of hard to understand because it is an older, style of talking. They're using all of the formal royal forms of address and all of that. Quite a difficult movie linguistically, but very, very enjoyable. Loved it. Obviously it's sad, but not as sad as it could have been, I guess. Then the other movie that I watched was La Camarista, and this is set in Mexico, and we are following a maid, I guess that's what it would be. It might be called the chambermaid in English, and she works in a super massive hotel in Mexico City, and she's trying to kind of get ahead in this job so that she can make enough money to take care of herself and her family and everything. And really nothing happens in this movie. It's a very, very, not slice of life, that makes it sound fun. It's not fun, but you're just following her along throughout her days and seeing how basically everyone is just exploiting her. And so, a little bit depressing, but she's a very, very good, the actor did a great job of being a very dignified but funny but kind of relatable. I don't know, it was a good movie. Again, not the most amazing for language learning because there's not actually a ton of talking in this movie. There's a lot of silent time, but still I think it's a good movie and still worth the watch. The only other thing that I have is I did just start listening to this podcast that I've really been enjoying. There's not very many episodes, which is really sad because it's not being made anymore, but it's called Come Cuento. Each episode is only about 30 minutes long, and it's authors that they've invited to read a short story of a different author and talk about why they like it. So obviously it's quite short stories because it's only a half an hour total, but I really, really have been enjoying it so far. There's a couple that I found it because Bernardo Esquinca is on there, but there's several other authors that I did already know. And then there's a bunch of authors that I don't know, whether it's the author that's on the podcast or the author of the story that they're reading, which many of them are not Spanish authors, but regardless, really been enjoying that podcast. So this was the very, very book heavy episode of this, but we are all caught up now. And let me know if you have been reading or watching anything great lately, and I will see you in the next one.